What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna get into the craziest plot twist of my cancer story. But before we do so, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below. It really helps the algorithm and boosts my channel. Now I'm going to go back a little bit and reiterate where I last left off in explaining my cancer story. Where we last left off was that I was about to get radiation in the summertime, and what had happened was I had a psychological breakdown because it's very, very hard to document my cancer story as it is happening. It's extremely emotional and heart-wrenching and heartbreaking and all the things that come with having a cancer diagnosis. I got diagnosed February 7th, 2023. I had to wait 95 days to get medical clearance for my lumpectomy because I was too sick to go under the knife and I was not breathing at sustainable oxygen levels. Once I got my lumpectomy, I was scheduled to do radiation and I ended up being a no-show due to PTSD. And in March of 2023, they also found a precancerous fibroadenoma, which they were monitoring and expecting that it would turn cancerous because I am a proven cancer patient. Well, lo and behold, by changing my eating habits and being super duper healthy and trying to move around and exercise and lose weight, I was able to turn this precancerous fibroadenoma around, and it turned completely benign by the time they rechecked me in July. I went back to my doctor in November, and in November I ended up having a completely normal mammogram that showed no evidence of disease. And when I sat down and talked to my doctor said, oh, I told her that I had PTSD and that I didn't show up to the first round of my radiation. So she says, we got to get you back on track, meaning that I have to be rescheduled to do radiation again. So then it ended up being, this was November 30th, and then it ended up being all of the holidays. So when I did get in touch with the radiation doctor, she was away for the holidays. And then I ended up getting sued as well because my life isn't complicated enough. And that all went down. So now I was scheduled to start radiation, and I ended up getting tattooed for radiation. I ended up getting 7 tattoos, and these were not tattoos that I wanted, or, you know, things that I picked the placement of, or, you know, radiation tattoos are what the doctor orders. It's where they, you know, the laser is going to be hitting you, and they determined that the best way for me to get radiation was to be lying flat, face down, with the breast that had the cancer in it, and they were going to basically laser me going this way, straight through the breast, missing my heart and lungs. And I was basically pretty ready to go, but not really ready to go because I was still really scared about this taking place. I did wanted to take a holistic approach with my cancer, but being that I faced so many obstacles with trying to learn to walk again, getting sued, trying to come up with money for healthy food on a regular basis, just a lot of obstacles that I can't even get into in like the time that we have. It, you know, going through a divorce, everything horrible that a person could live through, I am living through right now. So when I got tattooed on January 12th, I was set to start radiation today. But then a crazy turn happened in my story, and this is why you guys are tuning in right now. Because on Wednesday of last week, I went to the pain management doctor. I was having serious pain in my spine from the accident, because up until now I don't feel pain from cancer. I don't feel sick at all from cancer. What I do feel pain from is pain from my accident and from being disabled. So when I went back to my pain management doctor, I had explained to her, listen, I'm ready to start radiation on Monday. You know, like, what are we gonna do about this whole like pain and herniated and bulging discs in my spine? So she says, I'll give you some pain medicine we can do an epidural in your neck, and we have to do a branch block in your lower spine. So she says, before we start, we have to get you medical clearance from your doctor. And, because this is going to be a steroid injection. So you have to get medical clearance from the radiation doctor to make sure this doesn't interfere while you're getting radiation. So I says, okay, I can do that. She goes, when do you see the doctor? I said, Friday. She's like, perfect. Okay, just ask her then. So after that happened, she was ready to basically go with the branch block, which is going to be 3 sets of branch blocks. And I would have to start the first set. So the very next day, I had another appointment with my PCP. And this appointment was actually just to get my annual medical transportation happening continuously. Because every year you have to go and renew when you're disabled for medical transportation, depending on how it's already set up. My specific one, you have to renew every year. Some people don't have to renew every year, it's just automatic. Anyway, I show up. She goes, what are you here for? I say, well, I'm here just to get a renewal for my medical transportation. And she goes, okay, what else? And I said, oh, you could give me some vitamins too. And she goes, okay, what else? And I'm like, well, I'm also here to update you on my cancer story. And I say, yeah, I made it 8 months cancer free. My last scan said no evidence of disease, and I'm starting radiation on Monday. She was typing, and she stops typing, and she looks up and she says, Diana, she goes, why are you getting radiation if you have no evidence of disease? And I said, well, what do you mean? My surgical oncologist just told me that I'm off track, that I need to get back on track. She goes, no, you're in remission. And I said, well, nobody told me this. Like, nobody explained to me. I thought remission was like when you make it to 5 years being cancer free. And she says, no, you're in remission now. She says, if you go and you do radiation now, you can actually end up with a secondary cancer, because whatever you've been doing holistically up until this point has been working, and you have to get under the care of a holistic doctor, which is what I've been wanting all along. But I was having trouble coming up with the funds to get to this type of doctor. So now I was faced with a whole new dilemma, because the very next day I was supposed to go in and start radiation. Actually, the very next day I was supposed to go and start doing like the final like setup of how the radiation was supposed to go. So my doctor says, the PCP, she says, you have to stall. She went, you have to push this radiation situation back about another month and try to ask this doctor specific questions. I'm going to give you a specific set of questions. So basically the questions were to see if it was actually medically necessary for me to even get radiation, having made it 8 months with no chemo, radiation, or hormone therapy. Like, what would be the point of me doing radiation now when I made it this far? So I show up to the radiation doctor on Friday, and I basically had to make up a story as to why I couldn't do radiation again. And the best story that I could come up with was that I was in too much pain with my spine to not be able to do radiation again, and I take out my medication that the pain management doctor had just prescribed me 2 days earlier, and I take my medical orders out for the branch block and for the epidural into my spine, and I say to her, I'm not feeling great, blah blah blah, and she goes, oh no, this and that, and I show her these papers and I say, are these is this branch block, is this epidural going to interfere with my getting radiation? She goes, with steroids, she's like, I don't think it should interfere. So I kind of use that as an opening to ask her the remainder of my questions for the PCP, because now I was going to lead into this conversation with hesitancy as to why I didn't want to do radiation again. These questions that I'm about to tell you guys, this is all me going incognito. I'm not telling her at this point that these are questions my PCP helped me come up with to try to get to the bottom of. These are questions that I'm trying to suss her kind of out and feel out my situation. So the first question was, what is my risk to get cancer again without radiation? If I do radiation, by how much will my risk be reduced by? The radiation doctor replies, the chances are high, but when it does come back, it may not even be in the same spot in the same breast. The next question was, do you have any studies to show radiation would be helpful in a situation as unique and rare as mine? The radiation doctor replies, the studies are all based off of standard of care, lumpectomy and mastectomy. The next question is, what is my percentage of risks if I choose not to do radiation? She replies, it could be 10%, it could be 30%, it could be as high as 40% within the next 5 years. It'll likely come back, we just don't know when. Then I thought I heard them mention the day that I was getting tattooed, that there was a CAT scan. So I asked her about the CAT scan and what was the result of that. And she tells me there was no CAT scan, that was just them doing mapping. In between the time I spoke to my PCP and the time that I spoke to the radiation doctor, I reached out to a holistic cancer center and I asked them for their advice on what they would do if they were in my shoes. And the feedback that I got from the place was to ask, why hasn't a PET scan been ordered? So I said to the place that I called, what exactly is a PET scan? A PET scan is a scan from head to toe that would show if there's cancer anywhere else in your body. So I asked my radiation doctor, hey, why hasn't anybody ordered a PET scan yet? She said that since there was no cancer found in my lymph nodes during the time of surgery, and since my mammogram has shown no evidence of disease, it is unlikely that the PET scan would show that I have cancer anywhere else. And again, I asked her about my percentage of risk, because before she said it could be 10%, 30%, or 40%, and I'm trying to get a more definite answer, because 10% to 40% is quite a big jump. And then I just carry on with that I'm not sure about being able to do radiation because of the pain in my spine, and she says, don't even start if you can't finish. So that's how my conversation more or less went with the radiation doctor, because as soon as the conversation was over, I ran to the bathroom and typed up the responses that she said with the questions that my PCP had told me to ask, so that I wouldn't forget because of the brain injury. Looking back at this conversation that took place, I could clearly see the point my PCP was trying to make, that none of the answers that I received from the radiation oncologist made any sense. This completely changed the trajectory of my going forward with my cancer treatment, because I decided now that my PCP was right and that I should pursue a holistic approach. One of my old coworkers in the past actually connected me to a woman who beat cancer holistically by going to this place called the Hippocrates Wellness in Florida. And one of the issues that I had in the past with reaching out to a holistic doctor was the price. But one thing I never did was actually look into the cost of this place and what they would charge. I ended up calling this place after everything was said and done, and they told me that since I made it to 8 months, congratulations, I don't need them. But the thing is that I definitely feel alone in my cancer journey, not having any doctor or anyone to bounce feedback off of. It has just been me doing Google searches, taking shots in the dark, going to this place called In Vita Wellness that does vitamin C infusions, cryotherapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and a whole bunch of other holistic options. But there's no one there to really give me direction or advice. I also have a mammogram coming up on February 1st. So if the results of this mammogram come back as benign and everything looks fine and there's still no evidence of disease, I will be going out to Florida, and I'm going to be trying to keep up and maintain what I've been doing so far, but trying to learn to improve it and refine it better under the care of doctors out there. The cost of this trip is more affordable than the ones that I was able to find in the past, but because I haven't worked in 4 weeks, it was still a challenge for me to come up with this money. Until next time, bye-bye.